Benefit fraud costs the UK and the USA billions every year, money that's meant to support people who genuinely need help. Today, we're breaking down 7 of the most common ways people game the benefit system, or the welfare system, according to how UK authorities and the US authorities describe and investigate fraud. This isn't a how-to, it's about understanding the patterns, the risks, and why the systems keep tightening. In this documentary, we will first look at the UK, then the USA, and after that we will compare the two and highlight where the loopholes in the USA are greater than the UK. Let's begin with the UK. 1. Not declaring work or earnings. One of the most common forms of benefit fraud is working while claiming, without declaring it. This can include cash-in-hand jobs, freelance work, gig economy income, or simply working more hours than reported. Some people assume small or irregular earnings don't count, but in the UK, all income matters. Modern systems cross-check tax records, employer data, and bank activity, making this far easier to detect than many realize. 2. Claiming as single while living with a partner. Another frequent issue is claiming benefits as a single person while living with a partner. In the UK benefit system, couples are usually assessed together because household income affects entitlement. Problems arise when someone says they live alone but in reality shares finances, bills, or a home with a partner. Investigators often look at address records, shared expenses, and even social media when reviewing these cases. 3. False housing benefit or rent claims. Housing-related fraud is also a major focus. This includes claiming rent for a property you don't live in, subletting while claiming help, or saying you pay rent when you don't. Some cases involve people moving out but continuing to claim. Others involve arrangements with friends or family that aren't properly declared. Because housing support can be one of the largest benefit payments, mistakes or deception add up quickly. 4. Misrepresenting health or disability. Disability-related fraud is often misunderstood. Most people who claim disability benefits are legitimate, but misrepresentation does happen. This can include exaggerating symptoms, withholding improvements in health, or claiming limitations that don't match medical evidence. Assessments, medical reports, and reviews are designed to catch inconsistencies over time. These cases can be sensitive, but they're closely monitored due to the seriousness of the claims involved. 5. Not reporting changes in circumstances. Many fraud cases don't start with intentional deception. They start with not reporting changes. Getting a job, moving house, increasing savings, or having someone move in can all affect eligibility. Some people delay reporting, hoping to sort it later, but the system expects immediate updates, and overpayments, even accidental ones, can still have consequences. 6. Claiming for children who don't live with you. Child-related benefits must reflect where the child actually lives and who is responsible for them. Fraud occurs when someone continues to claim after a child moves out, lives with another parent, or becomes independent. Schools, councils, and benefit agencies often share data, making discrepancies easier to spot. This type of fraud is taken seriously because it directly affects support intended for children. 7. Hiding savings, assets, or financial support. Finally, there's capital and savings concealment. Some benefits have strict limits on how much money or assets someone can hold. This includes savings accounts, property, inheritance, or regular financial support from others. Failing to declare these or moving money to avoid limits is a common trigger for investigations. Banks and financial institutions now play a key role in data matching. Let us look at the United States. Benefit fraud in the United States isn't just about individuals lying on forms. It ranges from small personal misreporting to large, organized schemes involving fake businesses and millions of dollars. This is about awareness, not instruction, and understanding why oversight keeps increasing. 1. Not reporting income or working under the table. One of the most common forms of benefit fraud is earning income while claiming assistance without reporting it. This includes cash jobs, gig work, side businesses, or continuing to work while collecting unemployment or SNAP benefits. Some people assume small or irregular earnings don't count, but in the U.S., all income must be reported. Agencies regularly cross-check tax records, employer reports, and payment histories, making this kind of fraud increasingly easy to spot. 2. False household or marital status claims. Many U.S. benefits are based on household income, not just the individual. Fraud occurs when someone claims they live alone or separately while actually sharing housing, finances, or support with a partner or family member. By splitting households on paper, benefit amounts can be artificially increased. Investigations often rely on lease records, shared bills, school enrollments, and even address patterns across government databases. 3. Fake or inflated disability claims. Disability-related fraud is a sensitive but closely monitored area. This can involve exaggerating symptoms, submitting misleading medical documentation, or failing to report improvements in health while continuing to collect benefits like SSDI or SSI. While the vast majority of disability recipients are legitimate, inconsistencies over time can trigger reviews, reassessments, and fraud investigations. 4. Fake clinics and fraudulent healthcare providers. One of the largest sources of benefit fraud in the U.S. comes from fake or corrupt healthcare providers. These clinics bill Medicaid or Medicare for services that were never provided, unnecessary procedures, or patients who were never treated at all. Some exist only on paper, others operate briefly before disappearing. Because healthcare programs involve massive public spending, this type of fraud can cost taxpayers millions or even billions of dollars. 5. Fake or empty daycare centers. Childcare subsidy fraud is another major issue. This involves fake or barely operating daycare centers claiming payments for children who don't attend, don't exist, or were never enrolled. In some cases, the facility is empty or doubles as a residence or storefront with no real childcare services. States increasingly rely on inspections, attendance tracking, and payment audits to uncover these schemes. 6. Trafficking or misuse of benefit cards. SNAP or food stamp fraud often involves selling or trading benefits for cash. This can happen through individuals or through complicit retailers who process fake transactions and split the proceeds. Benefits may also be used to purchase non-approved items. Electronic tracking and transaction analysis now make unusual spending patterns much easier to flag. 7. Concealing assets, savings, or outside financial support. Many benefits have strict limits on savings, assets, and financial assistance. Fraud occurs when people hide bank accounts, property, inheritance money, or regular help from family or friends to stay under eligibility thresholds. Some attempt to move money temporarily or hold it under someone else's name. Financial data matching has made this far harder to get away with than in the past. Benefit fraud isn't just about breaking rules, it erodes public trust and drains resources meant for people who genuinely need help. That's why enforcement is becoming more automated, more connected, and harder to evade, with agencies investing heavily in audits, data sharing, and oversight. Now that we have seen the system in the UK and the United States, let us compare the two systems. Benefit fraud exists in every country,
but how it happens often reflects how each system is designed. In the next section, we're comparing the UK and the United States side by side, looking at similar fraud patterns and how they show up differently on each side of the Atlantic. This isn't about blaming claimants, it's about understanding the systems. 1. Undeclared work and income.
UK. In the UK, this often involves cash-in-hand work or undeclared self-employment while claiming universal credit or housing benefit. USA. In the US, the pattern is similar, working while claiming SNAP, unemployment, or Medicaid, including gig work or side income that isn't reported. Key difference: the behavior is the same, but the US relies more on tax and employer data matching, while the UK leans heavily on real-time earnings reporting. 2. Household status and living arrangements.
UK. A common issue is claiming as single while living with a partner, which increases benefit entitlement. USA. In the US, this shows up as falsely separating households on paper, even when finances and living arrangements are shared. Key difference: both systems are household-based, but US cases often involve extended families or multi-unit addresses. 3. Health and disability claims. UK. Fraud can involve exaggerating disability or failing to report improvements while receiving disability-related benefits. USA. The same pattern exists with SSDI and SSI, inflated claims or misleading medical documentation. Key difference: the US system relies more on medical providers and private evaluations, while the UK uses centralized assessments. 4. Housing and rent claims. UK. Housing fraud often involves claiming rent for properties not lived in, subletting, or not paying rent at all. USA. In the US, housing fraud appears through subsidized housing misuse or false rental arrangements tied to benefit eligibility. Key difference: UK housing support is more centralized, while US housing fraud is fragmented across federal, state, and local programs. 5. Organized provider fraud. UK. Large-scale provider fraud exists, but it's more limited due to tighter central controls. USA. This is where the US stands out. Fake clinics, fraudulent healthcare providers, and empty daycare centers billing public programs for services never provided. Key difference: the US's privatized delivery model creates more opportunities for organized high-dollar fraud. 6. Benefit card misuse. UK. Misuse is relatively limited due to restricted spending controls. USA. SNAP trafficking, selling benefits for cash, is a major enforcement focus. 7. Hidden savings and assets. Both countries. People hide savings, property, or outside financial support to stay under eligibility limits. Key difference: U.S. financial systems are more decentralized, but data matching is rapidly closing that gap. Different systems, same incentives. Where public money exists, abuse follows, and oversight keeps growing in response. When people think of benefit fraud in the U.S., they often imagine individuals lying on forms. But the biggest losses don't come from individuals, they come from organized schemes that exploit structural loopholes in how public benefits are delivered. Recently, allegations have surfaced concerning Somali-linked networks running a sophisticated welfare fraud on a turbonuclear scale in the United States. The question people have been asking is, based on the allegations, how were these Somalis able to run these fraud networks on an industrial scale? Let's investigate below. 1. Fake clinics and phantom healthcare providers. One of the largest sources of benefit fraud in the U.S. comes from fake or fraudulent medical clinics. These operations bill Medicaid or Medicare for services that were never provided or for patients who were never seen. Some clinics exist only on paper. Others open briefly, bill aggressively, then shut down and reopen under a new name. Because healthcare billing is complex and largely automated, fraudulent claims can move through the system before red flags appear, costing taxpayers millions. 2. Fraudulent providers gaming the billing system. Not all fraud involves fake billings. Some involves real providers abusing the system. This includes billing for unnecessary procedures, upcoding services to higher reimbursement rates, or billing for treatments patients didn't need or receive. In some cases, providers collude with patients or recruiters to generate claims. The loophole here isn't just dishonesty, it's scale. Even small overbilling repeated thousands of times adds up fast. 3. Fake or empty daycare centers. Another major vulnerability lies in childcare subsidy programs. Some schemes involve creating daycare centers that barely operate or don't operate at all, while claiming subsidies for children who don't attend, don't exist, or were never enrolled. Because payments are often based on enrollment rather than daily attendance, these centers can collect funds with minimal oversight until inspections or audits catch up. These schemes don't exploit kindness, they exploit complexity, speed, and decentralization. The United States system relies heavily on private providers to deliver public benefits, which creates efficiency, but also opportunity for abuse. That's why enforcement increasingly focuses on audits, data matching, and whistleblowers, not just individual claimants. If you found this breakdown useful, consider liking the video and subscribing for more insightful analysis. Thanks for listening.